Hello, welcome to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, where it is all about helping amazing physicians just like you create a wealthy life free from burnout and with the financial security to practice medicine on your own terms. I'm your host, Dr. Elisa Chiang. Hello, and welcome back to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. It's been a while since I did an episode that focuses on mindset around money, so I thought the time was due. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't have a positive relationship with money. And what I mean by that is that when people think about money and think about their own financial situation, common feelings that come up are those of insecurity, guilt, or even shame. We may be critical about how our spouse spends money, or feel that our spouse is critical on how we spend money, or we may even be critical about how we ourselves spend money. Our thoughts about money start developing at a very young age. It starts in the household we grew up in. It starts with what our parents said about money, what our siblings said about money. As we get older, we had more influences. There's what our friends said about money, or what our friends' parents even said about money, what our teachers said about money. If we went to church or temple, or were involved with any other religious affiliation, then it's what our faith said about money. Of course, there's what the media says about money, what we saw on TV, or what we see in movies. And there's our own lived experience with money. Through all this, we end up having default money beliefs that we learn from others and that we've also adopted for ourselves. From these beliefs, we judge others and we judge ourselves. If you're feeling bad about your finances, it's likely because the financial beliefs you've adopted don't actually line up with your personal financial situation. One of these financial beliefs that we get from society is that doctors make a lot of money, that doctors are rich. And yet, we know that many doctors have a negative net worth when they start out their careers due to the high cost of medical education. We may make a lot of money as new attending, but we certainly don't feel rich. There are a few words that come up a lot in the world of money. And the words I want to really address today are those of need, want, and afford. There are a lot of things that we typically want to have that we confuse for needing to have. Then there are other things that we want, but we don't feel like we can afford. Let's start out by talking about needs and wants. It can be good to think about your needs versus your wants. The truth is, we don't really have that many needs anymore. Our needs are what we consume in order to survive, things like food, water, and shelter. And everything else is really a want. As a physician, even those of you that may still be in residency or fellowship, we earn enough money to cover our basic needs. We thankfully live in a country where access to clean drinking water is fairly universal. While organic and healthier foods may cost more, and the cost of groceries has certainly increased with recent inflation, we do have ready access to food. We earn enough to have some sort of shelter, and most Americans have far more clothing than we arguably need to survive. Now think about something that you need, something material that money can buy. When you think you need something, how do you feel? Usually what comes up is some kind of pressure or a feeling of stress. Now think about why you need whatever it is that you're thinking about. On some level, not having what you need will create some sort of negative result or negative outcome. What is the negative result or outcome in this case? Can you switch it from a need to a want and ask yourself, why do you want it? Switching from thinking, I need this, to I would love to have this, or having this would make life easier because, or if I had this, then I would have. Really looking into it may be able to decrease any pressure or stress that you are feeling. When you realize it's a want, you can think about, why do you want it? What benefit will it produce for you? What if you don't get it? What are the alternatives? What are the drawbacks of the alternatives? What are the benefits of the alternatives? Let yourself be curious about your wants. When we're trying to support an identity, we often use the word need to describe what we need to support that identity. We want others to think of ourselves in a certain way. We want to be able to think about ourselves in a certain way. Everything we want is due to how we think we will feel when we have it. When we recognize this, we can also think about how else could we produce that feeling. You don't want to judge the want. It's okay to want things. Desire can be motivating. It can get us to take action. So it's not a bad thing to want things. Distinguishing when you really want something versus you need it can really make a difference for how you're feeling about whatever it is that you do really want. And really understanding why you want it can also give you clarity. Now let's talk about the word afford. When we talk about affording something or not being able to afford something, we can really be using it for different reasons or in different ways. For some, when people say they can't afford something, they're saying it from a state of feeling powerless. There are other people who, when they say they can't afford something, what they're really thinking is that it'd be irresponsible to buy whatever that thing is. Sometimes when we say we can't afford something, it's really an excuse that we give someone or we give ourselves not to have to actually buy the thing. Sometimes when we say we can't afford something, we stop ourselves from even considering if we want that thing that we're saying we can't afford. Generally, when we say we can't afford something, we feel bad about it. I love Paula Pant's saying, you can afford anything, but not everything. For the most part, we can afford anything as physicians, other than maybe really expensive things like a private jet plane. But we're talking about things that are in the multi-million-dollar range. And frankly, there are physicians who buy houses that cost in the multi-million-dollar range. It's much more empowering to acknowledge that we choose how we want to spend our money. What am I letting myself do? Am I letting myself make this purchase, or am I not letting myself make this purchase? How do I want to choose where my money goes? Am I saying I can't afford this because I'd rather spend my money on something else? None of us could afford going to medical school, and that none of us actually had the money on hand to pay for whatever medical school costs. A few of us had parents or other relatives who may have paid for our medical school, and they actually did have the money to pay for it. Some of us found other ways to pay for medical school, like obtaining scholarships or signing up for a military program like ROTC. Many of us borrowed money to pay for medical school. This shows that you may end up buying something that you really don't have the money to pay for, meaning something that you really couldn't afford. I think it's safe to say that many of us couldn't afford to go to medical school, but we found a way to pay for it anyways. This is why saying I can't afford something is really a disempowering statement, as opposed to realizing that I choose not to buy whatever that thing is. Many of us can't afford to outright buy our homes. We tend to get mortgages or loans in order to buy our primary residence. We may say that we can afford the payments, even if we can't afford to buy the property outright. So all of this is really the story that we're telling ourselves. Think of something that you say that you can't afford, or think about the last time you said you couldn't afford something. Did you have the money in your bank account that you actually could have paid for whatever it was? Or did you have a credit card that had enough credit in order to make that purchase? Do you have a retirement account that you could have withdrawn from in order to make that purchase? I'm not saying to actually do any of these things. The idea is really to take yourself out of any feeling of being trapped or any feeling of scarcity. You could consider taking money out of your retirement account to make some purchase. You can think, why would you do that? Or why wouldn't you do that? And then you may decide that you wouldn't do it because you don't want to pay the 10% penalty you would incur for early withdrawal, as well as pay taxes on the money you take out from that account. You may decide that it's because you don't want to take away from your future self, and you see it more important to build your wealth and your financial future than to purchase whatever it is that you're saying that you can't afford. In this way, you're acknowledging that it's not that you can't do it. It's not that you can't buy whatever it is. It's not that you really can't afford whatever it is. It's that you're not willing to put your money there. It's that you choose not to spend your money on whatever that thing is versus the other things that you're spending your money on. Understanding that where you spend your money is a choice can also open up to asking yourself, how can I afford this? How can I decide to buy this with money that I want to put towards this purchase? What are my options? What opportunities do I have, or what opportunities can I create? This allows you to go down the path of exploration. Maybe I don't want to spend the money I have now on it, but I could find the money that I am willing to spend on it in the future, like next month or next year. You may think about, how could I earn more so that I can feel good about making this purchase? Or how do I spend less on other things so that now I free up the money that I'm willing to spend to purchase whatever this is that I'm thinking I can't afford? From this place, we're going from the idea of I can't afford it to, now that I think about it, I could purchase it, but I actually don't want it. Or I may purchase in the future, but I prefer to put my money in different places at this time. We can ask ourselves, what would I gain if I did buy it? What would I lose if I bought it? What couldn't I buy if I choose to buy this instead? You can apply this line of thinking to figuring out what you want to spend your money on. Do you want to buy investments to grow your money? Do you want to buy some consumer good? Do you want to buy some service? None of these are right or wrong. Money is meant to be spent. Either way, you are buying something. What are the benefits of your purchase? What are the drawbacks? From a place of curiosity, think about how you're currently spending your money. Let yourself be aware from a place of non-judgment. What spending has brought you joy? What spending has brought you peace? What spending has brought you time? What spending has really not brought you any results at all? When I talk to people about their financial goals, they commonly give big goals. Goals like replacing their physician income with passive income so they can work less or not at all. There are also many people who want to travel more. If you look at your current spending and see where your money is going, you're likely to find patterns that show you what you actually want, at least in the short term. Your spending habits will reveal your values, what you care about today. I do want to say that don't confuse this with your value as a person. Your net worth does not reflect your personal worth as a human. Where you spend your money, though, does show what you're valuing right now, enough to actually part with your money to have whatever it is you buy, whether it's a material object or a service. What are you buying? How much are you buying? And most importantly, why are you buying it? Where do you tend to spend a lot of money? Is it Amazon.com or Costco? Is it at a specific restaurant or a specific shop? What are you getting out of that spending? Is any of that spending to feel better, like retail therapy? There is a pressure to consume in our culture that comes from marketing. Procter & Gamble has convinced us that we need to shower daily to be clean and hygienic. But that really comes from selling more soap and more products. So now we have to replace the oils that we strip away from our body with creams and lotions, which they also sell. De Beer has convinced us that a diamond is rare and valuable. And the way to show a woman how much you love her is how much you spend on the diamond ring you give her. You may be a person who showers twice a day. I know my sister does. Do you like your reasons for doing so? I know she does. I know that she likes to be woken up with a shower in the morning, and she likes to go to bed feeling clean at night. You may be a person who loves jewelry. I know I do. I have a collection of jewelry pieces I love wearing. As long as you know what's driving you and making those decisions, and you like those decisions, then continue regardless of whatever marketing or societal pressure says. If you're finding that you're really doing it because of some kind of societal pressure, maybe pressure from your parents or your in-laws or what you perceive of from society in general, are those pressures that you want to succumb to? If you don't, know that you don't have to. It can feel uncomfortable, but so is the discomfort of not having money because you're spending on it to please others. We need to quiet the noise of marketing and the messages we receive from society so that we can develop a healthy relationship with money by understanding better our wants and what we choose to do with our money, as well as what we choose to do with our time. While the point of this exercise has been to study your expenses, this doesn't mean that you actually need to reduce any of your spending. The idea is to get a clear understanding of your current priorities. Do it from a place of curiosity. From that place, you can start adjusting. It may mean reducing your spending in some areas of your life while increasing your spending in other areas of your life. If your goal truly is to work less, how are you going to use your money to get closer to that goal? If you find that you aren't doing that, why? What are you choosing instead? Do you like that you're making that choice? And if not, then what can you do to change? I hope this episode helps you to think about how you spend money and your relationship with money. If you would like to work more on your relationship with money, consider working with me. Set up a Zoom call by going to www.growyourwealthymindset.com so we can talk about whatever you'd like to work on and whether it'd be a good fit to work together. Thank you so much for being a listener of the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, and I'll be back next week with another episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could share it with your friends and colleagues. And now for the disclaimer. I am not a certified financial planner, accountant, or attorney, and nothing I say should be construed as professional investment, tax, or legal advice. This show is primarily for your education and entertainment. I am a physician, but I'm probably not your physician. So if you need any medical advice, please contact your own physician. Thank you.